Yes.
Laksa ya tini nga so twa tele ma to George musi o marta kyo so kar tni to na tre swa dangi chi lab cha rang lab cha to che ro.
Okay, so today we don't have a specific lesson plan or anything. We're gonna do question and answer. So yeah, ask if you have questions.
I'm here to listen to other people's questions. 我来听问题。
Anybody? Want to go first?
I can.
Sure. Okay.
Just one moment.
I have one
Okay.
silly question.
Yeah.
Regarding the 6 perfections, why are they called perfections?
Yeah. Okay. So this is tough to translate because it's not perfections in Tibetan, but
Yeah.
Parchin Chukki Tetsoti Karichini Parchin.
Ale parchan zyada nga so poi na china parchan zyada paro te chimba se ko. Paro ta tsrur te ka ko rezina korwal ko paro ta tarbata su tarmchan ke ma sanje gsal ko. Ta lam te chol nyamne china paro te chinsa ro sa langa tres. Tan tar sanje ge gela te chikdal paro chimba lep tsar sa res. Tel se jirumbo che sem chi te so na nda paro te chimba tan di paro te chimba. Lep tsal ta rosa imbi chan paro.
So the actual way that it happens in Tibetan is Parchin is essentially gone somewhere, gone to the other side. So in Tibetan, the meaning is actually, sometimes they translate as the 6 far-reaching attitudes. And what it really means is that by practicing these practices, by practicing the 6 perfections, the 6 far-reaching attitudes, you can go beyond samsara. So par chin, so par is like away over there, and chin is the past tense of dro, which is to go. So it's like went far away. It's like having gone. So in Tibetan, it isn't perfections. That might come from Pali though. He didn't say that, but I know I'm thinking about that. Maybe it's from Pali. So that's the main thing, is that it's the idea is that through these actions you're able to go beyond samsara to the state of Buddhahood.
I see.
The Chinese translation is more close to the original meaning.
Yeah. So in the 6 perfections, perfection the yang takpa
So parchan zena parchan ngoni ti na sanje sa ga yonde yengo zin penchen ga drison. Yena yang ta na so loblam go ja parchan ten yang ta patra lepsa ga langa yim bichani tele yang parchan ga nyam.
So really the only beings that can actually practice the perfections are Buddhas. So to truly practice the 6 perfections is to be a Buddha, but by practicing them, you can become a Buddha.
Okay.
Me?
I have a question. 3 principal aspects of the path.
Okay. The nam so zum ki tiwa tang dewa di tiwa ya.
Like there is a verse 13. You can read it, or maybe.
Can you show me the verse?
Yeah.
Parents prediction of emptiness and emptiness refuse to shame. Okay, so the lam nam to sumgi nangwa the nato karichinity. Furthermore, layang the nangwa the refutes the extreme of emptiness, extreme of existence. Nangwa the extreme of existence. Karichinity dimdre tang the dongbani the lam nam to sumgi nangwa the nangwa the kare chate kakireres no nangwa the chate tang kare ti dokshuk chate ki dokshuk dongba gi chate kakireres ang na nangwa the chate ki dokshuk
카랄
It's okay, I'll find it in Tibetan.
단다
the
니시 긴전 땅건지나 대세 따이게 봐도 발라세 테마로 남지 렌저 메퍼
three principal
아스펙트
aspects.
남지 렌저 없는 거 좋아
The condition the namgyung also the nangwa the how can I explain?
너무 땜지
It'll just be easiest if I just read it in Tibetan.
Is it easy for you to find in Tibetan?
Yeah. It's a very
가드리
the shlokas jusum gyupo kirandakin.
Can I read it in English for the other people? I will read it in English for the other people.
Oh yeah, sure, that would be great.
So verse 13, it says, furthermore, appearances refute the extreme of existence, emptiness refutes the extreme of non-existence.
너무 땜지
When you
좋아하는
understand
바다
that
동부
emptiness
켈리트
arises in the
고안
form of
띠르
cause and effect,
저서 너
you are not captivated by the view of extremes.
Cheta jabo gakiresti.
땜지
Dongba meta selching dongba ni. Okay, so the
Mm.
Shinyang Nangwa Yeta Selwa Tang
Ajaya,
Dongbe Meta Selwa Shing Dongba Ni.
자야 나위 용타 세로다 동비 멘타 세르죠 동반 예당 주인
Is your question
제일
just
단지 따인 쪽파 만지로스
My question is, in what way, is about the second line, like in what way emptiness refutes the extreme of non-existence or nihilism?
okay? So kandes the kongi tiwakares no the Dongbe kandes meta.
동비 멘타 세르단다 나위 용타 세르 저한 착보지 다송다 데스 갈리카
It's a difficult question. He says.
다 원이나 동비가 용타 가야 다 나위 멘타 가고니지 파타나트니 지고라 동바레제 온디 요파트 가고니 이나디 나위 용타 가제 온디 스텐제 레지디 스텐제 나와 잠기 파스 치글 치글 투니 데데오지디 랑식트피 덴적다 가용고 레제 손사 나위 용타 가제 용타지피 요파트 감디 키 요파트 마자니 덴적도 자카요
So the Dongba the Dongba ni the community ngato Dongba ni kona the dendre kogu gugeres.
마리스 나와트 시온 나와트 템제 고
Okay.
템제 시온디 고 틱톡이 요파 가용 거레즈 나와 제디아트가 소 폰데야 들어와 폰데서 템제 차데오라 당가서 미나요 소소 폰보다 야라라 소팔레 땡요른 컴바이나 가와다 직발라 소팔레 땡니데요레즈 고르 틱톡 요파다 가용 틱톡 요파 가용 틱톡 제디 랑식
Rangi.
두메티 요파 어 두메티 요파 가용 고 소사 고 덴저 임바트 그 가용 소사 나우 연탁 셀제 연타지 바트 덴저를 자
So he's explaining actually the first line first. So the reason that appearances negate the extreme of existence, I'm not sure what you're translating, but in here basically says the extreme of existence or extreme of inherent existence, you could bracket in, is because things appear through dependent arising, and by dependent arising, you are refuting the extreme of something existing without depending on other things. Does that make sense for the first line? Okay, so the
다 tombi menta serze ondi karzeti pamba zeat mepare malamni demba tripi tonwa rezete ondi jeta mepa maimbar ko dentro gacha dentro ko tonwa mato kichani peti mepa maimbar kichani mepa yesona ko pamba mepare labjana dentro krem pamba dentro ki mepa rezini labgo mandus sonza dentro chi gacha jani kayon sonza kichani ko zawanyeni mepa maimba yopa to kon sonza tombi meparizeta serni yopa togurezete shiru.
And so, on the second line, why emptiness refutes the extreme of non-existent, the important thing to understand is what is it empty of? It's empty of existing inherently or truly. And so, in this case, the emptiness is not refuting the existence of the object, but is refuting this impossible way of existing of the object.
다만 Indeed.
Say it again, sorry.
Um,
It's not refuting.
so can you read that line again for everyone?
Emptiness refutes the extreme of non-existence.
Okay, so the important aspect in Tsongkhapa's understanding of emptiness is that what objects are empty of is empty of true existence or inherent existence. And so in this case, what Geshe Lharampa said is what they're the important thing is that emptiness is refuting this impossible way of existing, this true existence, but not existence.
Okay.
But this is the extreme of non-existence, the extreme of nihilism. Like normally emptiness is refuting like this true real way, true existence, but here it says the other way.
So karichini nganso namgyun di dongbani di kaksha jabo kakieres. Tikap tu karichini di dongbani di yut di kariti yuta di karivas.
Tombi yonta serto.
Karichini tikap tu di dongbe yuta sarkieres.
Tombi menta sero. Tombi menta.
Dongba meta. Karichini tikap tu namgyun yuta tsanotangieres. Tikap tu di karichini tikap tu di meta sarkieres.
Menta se oe tanda shiari. Tombare, dendrup ki tombare zeni shuchi shi ore pena shira nyambota unanjina ketan zigme jame jome zeni khatu meja ina ngol tomba nyala zigme jame jome zeni te ninchi menchi gachi khabarchi gyar goya ta kares ketan me ba mares tomba nyala me pares ti gachi tombi chani tomba she de ore zigyan gacha dendrup ki ngol trabayo amare deze tazig demba trabayo amare ja demba trabayo amare te labde gore me kirtan me labde yo amare zeti ko yopat kore yopat ko di menta te sere o te shede menta ser zena me ba mare labde gore me ba maimba ta ko gres me ba maimba te kanrichi ni ha ko tomba nya lazig me jame rome zeni ko gacha
di tomba gi gyune di meba meta yoba ha ko
no yopa ha pena naso kachandra jambandra chi karzeti chi penra ya pochi tem
So for example in the heart suture where you have there's no eye, no nose, no all of those things where you're negating it, right? So in that case what you're negating is this true existence, the Dimbartupa, this impossible way of existing, but you're not negating existence. And so by negating this impossibility, you are sort of indirectly affirming the existence of the object.
deni roch mokonal chamindulamna mokte yo hakogra momena mokonal chayo mesha yo mare deni jikoros mokte demba tripiton areze de on ko mokte mepa maimba mokte yo ajalate dentro piton areze o deni jikoros
So for example, if you have if you have Geshe and you say, okay, there is no tea in this cup, right? You've negated the tea, but by making that statement, you're affirming that there's a cup. So through the negation of this impossible way of existing of the object, to the negation of the fact that there is no tea in this cup, you also are affirming the existence of the cup.
Shigl kap te yo ki ko re mug kap kanal chayo me ke je wala kam mena ti nal chayo me ke je ko pro mena chayo me ke je
So if there's no cup, then you can't talk about the emptiness of the cup, right? There's no way to talk about the emptiness of a cup if there is no cup.
telunga po no shigla teng shiktense ko shigla yo pa ko
Shola.
shu mus maimba mus kap yo re chala yo marta shigla kap te yo pa ko
So indirectly, you understand it indirectly because you essentially imply it, because you're saying that there's no tea in the cup. There's a cup, even though there's no tea there. Does that make sense?
But doesn't it mean that this emptiness is an affirming negation? Because it affirms the existence.
Dongbani di yingak trouble Eurobes, the teacups of the Dongbani di megak marives.
me ka ta yimbar te bare
Yeah, it's definitely a non-affirming negation.
But if emptiness affirms the existence of a cup, then isn't it? How can it be an unaffirming negation?
So the Dongbani ki gyune hakoya ki gyune di kengi cha di kayul hakona di megak yengorives.
koro kap kanal cha mindu labjati roa Kojima Savlo on the Captio at Hakoram, Katiti, Jamaica Sambi Lo Korungol, Jamea Taram, Jambachi Shagma. In our Shigla Jima, go Capchita, Katoni Kame Pata, Demon to Capchita, in the USRS and the Jimata, Samlo Jamba Hakogro, the Nito Chico, Los Chicumola, Captato Sama.
So if you, emptiness is an affirming negation, so if you just say no T, right, that's a non-affirming negation. So emptiness is a non-affirming negation. If you just say there is no T, that's what you're thinking of as emptiness, and that is not applying the existence of anything. But in this case, we have this basis of this negation of the cup. So what we're saying is there's no T in the cup, right? So through that, indirectly, you are affirming something. But the emptiness itself is just the lack of the inherent existence, which is a non-affirming negation.
Because Geshe is saying that emptiness requires a basis which exists. Is Geshe saying that emptiness requires a basis?
A while ago, I'm sorry.
A basis?
No, before that. What did you say? While?
Geshe is saying that emptiness requires a
requires,
basis which exists. Is it this?
That is true, but I'll ask him. Dongba ni di shi gorebes. Dongba ni di dongshi. Jabo gorebes.
Tongeyo, Tombanil, Tombanil, she says, Yopachi Gorem, Yopachi Mena, Raporangol, Tombanil,
You have to have an existent phenomena that is the basis for the emptiness. You can't have an emptiness that is of a non-existent, like the horns of a rabbit.
Jambachi, Japani, Tombanil, Kishi on the Aton Pokuchu get the Sognal, Kashigichina, Tombanik, she on the Pambata Sotara Mezin, Trishenia, Shindundu, Pambayoma, Kawayoma, Resi.
They don't need
don't take Pamba, this one of Pamba Mepichani, Pambayoma, Pokan, Tatirson, Pachinimata, quite get some of you get the kitchen or
in other schools, there are people that say when, like, for example, the pot is empty, it actually is saying the pot doesn't exist. There's this other stream of understanding.
Inayan, Kag Laftan Chimung, Twandok Barisha. Counter, not so mean drawing. Says one, Magia, Mepatilla, Tombanis in the Kisha, the Chibarish. Pena Darnich. Tato says one, Nia Mero. Naziachin to Nia Mevatilla, Tombanis, Toma Chibarish. In a Tato says in a Mania Pichani. Kashig Tara me Parilam. Kashig is in a tato tan Kijimbuch, tato says in a mani parim, me pamari, yoris,
So in some ways, this is actually two ways of thinking are very similar because when we talk about the person, right, you're looking for the person and you don't find the person specifically, right? So what does that mean? One group says that means it doesn't exist. The other group says, some kappa says it still exists, you just can't find it, so it doesn't exist inherently, it doesn't exist truly. Is that helping?
To summarize my understanding, if you can check it, so Geshe is saying, you look at the cup, you see the cup, and the cup exists, and then you see that it's empty of truly existing, and then the next moment when you come out of meditation, then you see that it has to exist.
I don't think this is specifically talking about meditation, but I can ask. It's more just thinking about analysis, but I can ask that.
But I think this verse is like saying, how can you check that your understanding of emptiness is correct? If this verse is about the three principal aspects that, they say, Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, once emptiness and apparent arising are not contradictory, then your understanding is correct.
Yeah.
So in a way, how I understand it is that unless seeing emptiness negates the external of existence, you have not got it correctly.
Unless emptiness negates what?
Unless emptiness negates the extreme of non-existence, also,
yeah, extreme of non-existence,
then you did not get it. So then I do think it is practical in a way.
Oh, it's very practical. I just mean it doesn't I don't think it requires you being in a state of meditation, right? Because if you're in a state of meditation on emptiness, it's a megux. You're not preparing anything. Yes, but what do you want me to ask him?
So I will just repeat it. So you look at the cup and then you meditate on the emptiness of it.
Okay, so gayote, the gayote ki dongbani, the gom gyatna.
And then you see it lacks inherent existence.
Dimbatu timba chupki me tongna
And then after meditation,
tikum zarbe chela.
you think it must exist because it is lacking inherent existence, but it appeals.
So te chela ti samlo tang ti yogore kangin sena that nangyere timba chup me baladi yang te yang nangyere samlo tangyere.
Is this the correct?
Ti tak ti nangchin samlo tang tikireve.
Katik sablo tane koro go se ana jenda demba do. Tanda nawi menta ta serna demba ke tanda rishi gya nawi menta se tan chire ta ina dinale nawi yon ta se lo re ina tanji sablo tana andre tanji shasha re ina tandi na ji sablo tana shikti sablo tana andre tanji ga yimba.
Yeah, that's basically right. I mean, you can think about it both ways in terms of refuting the extreme existence or non-existence. I mean, you can look at it different ways.
Suta last anyhow.
Yeah, okay.
Just a second. Look at yours.
Thank you also for the session, Andrew. Thanks for keeping us all updated on the website, on the WhatsApp. So my question is, I can understand how, so I can get to a point of a nihilistic point of view. So if I keep on looking at the object and I say it doesn't inherently exist, okay, then I could get a mistaken view that nothing exists. Because if I can't find anything, then, and there's nothing to find, then I could end up. So I get the point. But my question is this: in a nihilistic point of view, is one of the mistakes, is one of the explanations that what appears to be nihilistic is in fact impermanence?
Wait, what? What appears to be nihilistic is in fact impermanence?
It's impermanence. So something that's changing all the time could appear nihilistic, but it's not really nihilism. It's really a state of impermanence. Just something changing all the time, but we don't see it.
Okay,
We don't see impermanence. I don't see impermanence.
Yeah.
I see permanence.
So what is? Can you state your question?
Yes, so is nihilism,
Uh-huh.
is one explanation of nihilism, a state of impermanence? You know, if I, yeah, that's really it.
So the cheta tang the kongi tangbo sung kare sina de nga di nang shin sung tang na di cheta di yong tam yong sikire nga di nyena di rakimare o di cheta jabo yong giyores ine yang kongi chiwa kare sina di mitakpa tang di cheta de tang dewa yoreves di mitakpa di sung tang na di yang cheta di yong sikireves.
Cheta se de at tatsu ndarawa le kenje ze andra wota kyangap che ze andra wota so yo mare sini sam de atrawa
Gyonga chitam cheta.
kyangap che tan le kenje de so mere ze de
Tin tongba ni ki tiang di tongba ni di meba yen zang di cheta yung
ten tomba ni me pare ze na par che cheta chingro dan ro ri ta su ta na chu nang shapi cheta le kenje tan tanda kyangap che me sambatro te so tomba ni ki pa che tang go ni me pa sambat mare kita nga so na ge pumbai din kamba na mi mi du se tin na jing sa lo ta tang me pa te sa lo ta na chetan ro de re mu ge ta to chani me pa thong na te chetan ro
Yana di mitakpa drabo di mitakpa gyune yang di changma meba drabo simodang
tanji na wa le na chama me pi na le na chetal ro na mishita ta te ke pa cheni tan che on di ta pa che ta to che on go re ro ma ro sa ma
jogi mare.
Tato tse yung di kupa tse sona nye me at go nga machina chashi na lo tsini nga manye pat hakona tel cheta la yo mar ta tomba nye ko le go te mene ke to ni nga so mata ma ke pise na legend yo mar ke nga che yo mar tomba nye yo mar karlam na te so cheta ro
So I don't think I quite got your question across, but I want to translate what he said. So I translated nihilism as cheta, which in Tibetan actually mostly means like a disbelief in past and future lives, a disbelief in karma. And so then I was trying to drill down to really what you're talking about was like with emptiness, me sort of being nothing exists, everything being a non-existent. And then he said he thinks maybe from impermanence it would be difficult to get to that view, but I can try to ask your question a slightly different way.
Sure.
Say it for me one more time.
Okay, so the one of the points is if you look at, say, atoms and you reduce, you can get this emptiness and space. You can't
Sure.
find anything. Okay. And is this really nothing, or is this a state of impermanence?
Okay, so nganso the tinik jabu gune the nani tinik jabu gune sup tongna the dul chen the chung shuk the chung jogires tamla the yomares the samlo tangna the cheta jabu yores mepa jabu yores yamna the midakpa career the midakpa yen yores
데이터 제타다 인제 말이 제일 끝니 막게 빠치니 받던 저 세잖아. 당아서 넘바 나올 든차트리 마치 땅을 조건 나시셔. 든차트 마치 손이 파시 든치 참미즈니 춘청쇼도 니에그레스. 데니 마 차체요 마릴라니 조건 나드리셔. 다 셈잠바든지 그체나. 당아서 든차지 같이 마치잖아. 제 매야지 차요 마레스. 이나가서 미그 니반르도 버시 체모도 차송 마레마도 콜
the kare the
베나든체직도 체시 체마토와 차송 마레마도 가서 니바가 만나래 콜 체 메바 마레스 든체 체메레스 니든시 그래서 든체 체메 그 계산이 송사데 체타자와니니 이제 마레라 따마타가 계산이 마레대요 든체 체치 체메 그게 발로도
So from the Buddhist perspective of looking at this, right, you have one school that says that there are these sort of fundamental partless particles that so you end up, and that's the basis of reality. And the other schools essentially say, like the mind-only school says that you can essentially divide things forever, that you never actually get to an end. And neither one of those ways of looking at it, you end up with nothing, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's always something, because everything is dependent. Either something is dependent on something, or in the other one, you get to a point which is partless. So there is
You
still
either
something
get to
there.
some basis of reality, or you get to
Yeah.
something that just sort of goes
Yeah.
endlessly, but neither one ends up with nothing.
Yeah.
든체 체치 체메 그 계산들이 로 제가
Okay. Hi, Alejandra. We're going to ask your question now. Good morning. My question is, while discussing the book, an analogy was given of the mind being like a dog held on a leash. In the context of mind training, so how cultivate mindful restraint and learn to generate and abide in such a state. Not so the tep. I'm not sure which book. Not so the tep. The Geshe Shetu. The Beiji. The Bete. The not so sim. The ki tak be jingba jabo yores. The leash kare the ki kinongi ki china the something the takba the jungjung yores.
아네
The can get leash.
니망아서 치비까블
Becher the kangi jungjung. The bete kanji sakogers.
대직시에 대인도 아주 똑바가 일
Tokpaki.
똑바 나서 똑바 사울로다니 나토고 일을 사울로단 동치라 일때 킨자오
Yerte the leash the takba.
답변은 폰드 셈을 사울로단 폰드 키나시 돈키때 탁바나시 똑바때 미나시 다 똑바때 그 porque 폰드 카바르탄 정말라 돈키라 테니 긴인제 오레스 돈키야 똑바를 돈키샤요 돈치 돈치가 뭐야 돈치때 열당 열차니까 바르시 똑바는 저와체케 똑바나저레즈 네마티식시에 때이나 고소이 아저 무슨다 똑바요 무슨다 똑바가 나니 똑바일란직스 똑바일란직스티 돈키치라 테니 지고레
Tunchi.
챙겨도
Chengmadunga.
Vale.
Kareti. Yine the lojong the gapsu the lojong.
Vale, lojong kabina kanjina.
The context of mind, the metaphor in the context of mind training. Bete the lojong ki gapsu the ngatso the sim ki job yores. The kite the takpa the nyargi yores. The nangshin. The kite ngatso sim jobo. The picture the takpa the leash the
전 시즌 좀 먼저. 잠바탄 시즌 가서 로트 제고레 제아가 단데. 전에 그날 제요티 작기직다 탁바지 자요. 비울로 빼자려. 때다 식밤은 저기 챙금도 시켜 빼자.
I'm sorry, he doesn't remember this example. Was this in one of the previous classes when we were doing the understanding of the mind?
Yes.
how one cultivates this mindful restraint and learns. So the chinche the kongi the tama the chinche the ngato the sim the lojong nam cheki kapsu the ngato the sheshin the dom jaborebes the sim gi dom sheshin gi gyune the
Shivjanayo.
dom sheshin the sim gi the dom chegiere shona the
Shishin Zetia the Chara Chinkira.
sheshin
Chan Shishin the Zimbe. Shishin the Nato Semless Sotaching. Same the Joba Marak Chegan to Tanya. Ani Chamba the Tapanashir. It's a same the Zum. There is Chamba, it's a good. Go same the Chincharology Guana Chamba, it's a good. Ani Shijin Gayanta, Pachi Shijin Gayakuta, to counter Shijin Nabi Sopanaj.
So when we talk about mindfulness and introspection, so mindfulness we can say is like a rope that's like holding you to the object, in this case the mind, and the introspection is sort of watching to see what the mind is doing, if it's doing something good or if it's doing something bad. So ngato the lojong ki kapso kanjes the nangshin semotang kanjes the
Andriro, when a gum Drachigyavi capsa, not so gum yavi in Jogom Chevi capsa, Mupa chicken gold de gora. Mupa chicken gold de the low Zerchiko, Mupa chicken gold de the Tata Dendu, Takin or Tang, Logi or race, they Shijin race. Then cast the many sound of the Jamba Chili Jundra Hakosona, Jembag, Ranjok Nema Mupaka in a tingle Sejagores. Then I've just same Tani. Taki Tango is Tani teller.
So, for example, in the context of meditation, when you're concentrating on an object, your mindfulness is what keeps you on the object, and the introspection is what tells you if your mind has wandered and brings it back to the object. How one cultivates this mindful restraint and learn both to generate and abide in such a state. But your question is not about meditation, is it? Or is it about everyday life, or is it specifically about meditation?
I think the example was helpful to sort of have a conceptual understanding of what to do after meditation to sustain that sort of view.
Okay.
That can go into the non-conceptual even while you're still out and about. That's just what I understood, but it could be wrong.
So that's what the gom sarve kapla. The sheshingi ki somewhat sheshingi ngang te so the kanjis gyongi is kanjis negi is the gom sarve kapsa.
Gum Gabji becomes in the Gum Samjatan.
Is it something the sarve jela? Also nam gyongi jodangi na the kanjis the somewhat kanjis the lojong te the muten chegi is.
Atsu the transition into Gumbi Cableon, Rawa. In Atana, give a Carolina, Chambata, she's a check or a penalam Jovi Caps, Semla Docha Controlas office, how long number? Tresidele, shoot that. Tresidele, Atsu Leka Carchi Capsinangi, Dochatan Control, Tangedan la Sopi. Same the Tishol and Romania, some not so low on the low change to the Gora. The low so same like Katina Taketan. The Taketan sound on the hotel. That didn't you cure so sound on that? So same Gazerchik, so same as that in your hotel ships allowed. That they get them because they can't on a Yashora, Yapachi become mine.
So, generally, when we talk about this sort of mindfulness and introspection, we're talking about in the context of meditation. But after meditation, of course, you can always be checking your mind, and you can be seeing if afflictions are arising, such as anger and jealousy and things like this. And, of course, try to stop them, right? So you can sort of continually be applying this in terms of trying to sort of train your mind. Is that getting at your question, though? I'm not sure I'm quite getting the... There's definitely nothing about non-conceptuality in that.
That's good.
Does that help?
Yeah. I think it was difficult to translate as well, so I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's totally fine.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, way.
Was you right?
Still, I need to try you.
Yeah, may I have questions? More questions? Hello?
Just on the national do chata control tang jerdang de so saulo tang de tita nga so kyun rezi chochi ni gashi ge samna ta de da chi kyun ji inge maren ro chi sam kyun na yom ai men de pasho ko jerdang chi ni so so le se jerdang che wa pasho ko do pa chi ni tsla no ki wa chata chi ni tsla no ki wa le saulo tang de kyo yin ta ta ga mi chi kan do pa chi ni ta ngi panjur de so chosa ni nga se yon na kungal controza go mar kondo cha kongara kapte ti kondo cha ti yona ya kan ta mena ya ni ngoni chi sa do cha kyo yimba te ni ha ko
don't check again kan ta the mission na di to
jam kan do cha kong ngal le ka che nge zo gom che to te ma thon na nga choyan do cha kong gi mele le ka che yo mar chi ba chi jam
So one way to understand the afflictions is that sometimes people think, oh, well, what do these afflictions hurt? So one way to understand that is that through afflictions like anger, jealousy, and craving or desire, you have somebody who has a lot of craving. They'll through that motivation they'll steal from you. If somebody's very angry through that motivation, they might hurt you, right? So you can sort of see through how those motivations cause other people to hurt you. You can see how those motivations are causing you to hurt other people as well. So that's one way to train your mind to think about these.
mi mongbo chi ngal do cha ta ngal je dang me na ngal ro len chwa ki wi ya lang cho chi tin do cha ta ngal go ndu si tin na je dang ngal go ndu si te me na nga song kyop che ya ga cha lang do chi ri go ndu si ani pa sho le go go re pa sho ko tsa do cha khong gi so so le no pa che je dang go ngi no pa chen cha ta ngi no pa che ti a so so kom che kwa tra kol te go re si so so sa ko re on di zo kom che to mu do to da te ko so
So some people think, oh, I need these emotions to sort of to get the things I need in my life, right? That I need desire and anger to sort of take care of my stuff. But if you think about how those emotions manifest in other people and hurt you, you can understand how that's not true.
a cho ko le ka te che on di ko ti cha re zin nga so me chang ma la so so le ti go re la na ti chang bo ma ro
So if you think about that, if other people have these things that you really have to have a lot of patience to bear these qualities of other people, then you can understand that you don't need these emotions. They're not helpful for you either.
ni do chi teng du na that's all.
Okay, so my question is, it's about the foundation of all qualities and the relationship between a disciple and the Lama. So in Geshe-la's experience, so I heard it once said that a disciple said, "I will become more important to you than your own father." That's a very powerful statement. I just wondered what Geshe-la's experience has been in relation to his own teacher. Is that really how the relationship is? That it becomes even more, greater than, it's it's very difficult to believe or to understand what that would be like.
So Lama the Yundin Shikirma ki kapsu the Lama tam the Ducha ki Java te so the be touching to yours. Young na the Kongi the Jik the Kosong the Lama te Kirangi Pale the Gachewa Young
America
Pama the Gachewa Youngire. So Kongi Chiwa Karis and Kirangi Nyamyongi Bakne the Kirang the dangerous Motangi be the Kirang Kanjita.
Ke ta ni na chu na le shen na ta lama te ta phama te ni la cha wa kan che re na lama te cha wa che re se ka re lama te nga chu che wa che cha da phama te nga chu chong chong cha re na te ke che she yo ma chi che na lama li phama te cha wa che ke nga chu le che wa yo ten de yo par che mong bo ji na yo ta na chu na le kya nga che ta le jim je Killing your sons. Lama Shiva Kecha so lali tartona, send them get same on Botera Mombo, social pento Cheva te yung race. Pama Natul Seva Katis China, Messin Dilla Yapochion, Teta Mato, Samlo Kurum with Timato, your Maris Sansam. The Chani, Lamato, Pamanila, Lamasawa Chegreze, she had the Shevo. That's also when Yam on the Shin similar than the Pamas are changing the Chindu.
So, by saying this, you're not saying that the Lama loves you more than your parents, or that you should love the Lama more than your parents, and you should love both of them. Right? So what this is saying really is, if you think about it, if we if we assert past and future lives in karma, right? So our parents benefit us greatly in this life, but the Lama through the teachings can benefit you throughout all of your lives. So there's a way you can understand the Lama being more important in a certain way than your family, than your parents, because the benefit has a longer lasting. But we're definitely not saying, oh, we're comparing the love that you should have for each other, or one loves you more than the other. And so he said in his experience, of course, he loves his parents a lot. I mean, he's
That's a pen rojan, not to take some kinson on the shaking door. Mina Lomo, Pango Rose, Agona, Chalon, Col Pesha Mombo Chelevi, Col Lekando, which is Chejana, Corango Tony, Diacarez in kinson on the shaking door. Catitan, the Col Pesha Mombo Chejana, Corti, Aramchenizani, Capode Chocolate, Inayon, Colocatu Peshat Machine. Chambako lekando which they yachts in the they got some in good tarimbo called paint on Rogra.
So for example, you can make the comparison of like a beggar on the street, right? If you give them money, that helps them a little bit. You can give them a lot of money, and what really, how much good will that actually do them, versus if you give them work, right? Then you give them livelihood, then that gives them benefit for a long time.
Tu gamugat pesha tena gajre.
Kiran becha tena ka. So kiran ka kiri ati kiran.
Chenyet ko pesha tena gandro jere leka chitena tu ga chewa chmare.
Gaya chiki mare kare.
Gabo tindi cheji mare.
Oh, so we all like people like to give money, but it's much harder to give work though.
That clarification is really helpful.
Is it good?
Yeah, that was really good. Thanks.
I have another question. So if we look at like sort of follow-up, if I look on an existent object and an non-existent object, for example, in my right hand I have a cup, in my left hand I don't have a cup. So both a cup is empty of an inherent existent cup, and my left hand is also empty of an inherent existent cup. Right? So if I look at the actual mind, it says a cup is empty of inherent existence cup, and a non-existent cup is empty of inherent existence cup. Both of them are just focusing on the mere negation of inherent existence cup. So are they the same mind?
So in one hand you have a cup, and the other hand you have nothing. And in this hand you're focusing on what?
Emptiness of inherent existence of cup.
Okay, in this hand you're focusing on the emptiness and inherent existence of the non-existent cup.
No, emptiness of inherent existence of cup.
But there's no cup.
But there's also no inherent existence cup.
And are they the same? Okay, I'll ask him the question. So the kongi ki ye chikla the kongi gayote the migne the gayote ki rangshin ki machupa la mikna yang na the gayo the lakpatin the gayo yomare. The gayo the mebate rangshin ki machupa yang teniki kepa karieres.
Ta tela di lapana kari mepatan rangi ki mepani chikbarizar. Tinga to sina hakogre chi gali chi omari lila bo shuchi ti tomba ni kyan ko cho omari ni lapana kari mepatan kari rangi ki mepani sipuchi kyan re lawre na so lole chartan so yomari ina ande rangi ki mepasha ma to ketan mepasha mea ko yo sonsan de rangi ki mepas shargoti ko tel kipa mambo chi chena ma to ko rangi mepa l'autre le charto mari.
So the difference here really is that in the hand, say there's no, so in this hand where there's no cup, right? When you look at that, the lack of the cup and the lack of the inherent existence of the cup are basically the same, right? There's no difference. It's very easy to see that there's no cup and there's no inherent existence of the cup because there's no cup. In this hand, when you look at this cup, it actually requires a lot of investigation and effort to understand that this cup doesn't inherently exist, right? So this cup appears to inherently exist, and you have to really analyze it to understand that this cup doesn't truly exist or inherently exist.
Sakina Hakor, come me pata Hakosati, Tes on a mea, the by Sonsati, me pata, Rangini, me pachipichikan chadi.
So the non-existent cup, of course, you know because it doesn't exist. If you look for it, you're not going to find it, right? So understanding that it's also empty is trivial, right? Because there's nothing there. Whereas this cup, again, it takes, when you look for it, you can't find it. Like you have to actually work to understand the lack of inherent existence of the existing cup.
I know one is trivial and one is not. Like saying that there is no inherent existence cup in my left hand is trivial, and it's not emptiness also. But I wonder, if you meditate, let's say very strongly, just on the lack of inherent existence cup in my left hand.
But you don't have a cup in your left hand.
But I also don't have an inherent existence cup. I can.
What is the object of observation in your left hand? This is why I have to translate this. This is why it's hard to.
Absence of cup.
Yeah, be very specific, otherwise translation is very difficult. Trust me.
Absence of cup in my hand.
So the lack of inherent existence of the absence of the cup.
No. The absence of cup being empty of inherent cup.
The absence of the cup being empty of an inherent cup.
Yes.
Okay. So the absence of the cup being empty of an inherent cup. So the gayo the lakpa the gayo yomare. The gayo meba te the rangshingi meba te mik na.
Yana de mok me kesa de.
O me bata morange qui me bata.
Cap qui tombe pas. C'est un année cap qui tombe par arrêt. Kage me pas un cap qui tombe pas.
J'ai sera chabreo mar kam me pas na ka orange qui me pas na ka tomba. Te so li la pochu chi na to som hakota. Kam me pas hakoti te so tomba ya orange qui me pas.
The reason I ask it is because of we talked about the principal aspects before, how emptiness requires an existent basis. But I think the actual negation is probably the same in both cases. If I look on something existing,
but you're not negating. You're not negating a non-existent. You're negating the absence, which is in existence.
But I'm negating an inherent cup where there is no cup.
How do I answer this question? You can't take a non. Yeah, the mepate the gong gap to mepate mik sigirives.
Peng mare parche. The lapanal kam me pata ka orange qui me pas cap que tomba kar samutana.
Yeah, the gayoki gakpate the gayoki mebate.
Te mega tarwa.
The megak the
mega samre.
So megak the young shingi machupa young deve.
Mega te orange machupa.
So megak the young shingi machupa tang gayoki young shingi machupa the kepa career.
A mega orange qui me pata tomba ni injere tate. Zamba shi chunchu shu injere. Mega zetia te kari me pas range qui me pas kari me pas di yorwa. Te range me pas di en tomba ni chakreta.
So the cup is a non-existence, but the absence of the cup is an existence, right? And the absence of the cup does not exist inherently. So you can focus on that, right? And you can focus on the absence inherent existence of an actual cup, but they're different objects of observation. On this, it's the cup. This is the absence of the cup. Both are existent. You can focus on a non-existent. What he said is, if you focus, it doesn't do you any good to focus on a non-existent. Is that helping?
Kam me pat me orange qui marche pas toni en chandro. Ina te so te ki pa chi ka pore na bi kam me pat ingol cha da mo sam ra chi ti chi kan le go mara. Kam me pat lendo cha ki mara control ki mara cha pa. Su te tomba ni gom sa na bi yachut 소소 적은도 가르 소소를 작바다 소소 쳇 나와다 소소 쳇 작도가 정말 대사 리전도 소소의 성사 동반이 검사도 약속도 소소레스 아니 지금 걸 돈이 또서나 지금 뭐 파파 단다신 로파 아리안데와 성을 지켰다 보고 되는 근지다 보이지 다운드 그때 그 돈이 또서나 잠바도 소걸 돈이 또한테 리라고 싶지않은 리스 파친도
So focusing on this kind of like focusing on the lack of inherent existence of the absence of a cup, of course, isn't actually that helpful for anything, because the best thing we should be thinking about is the absence of inherent existence of ourself, because it's by focusing on that we're actually able to reduce our afflictions, our anger, and all of these things. And so that sort of the most important thing really is to focus on the lack of inherent existence of the self, because it's through this that we actually are able to reduce our afflictions.
손상 미곰jam이 몸보이그 토마스 동반이 독사도 소소한 걸 장로를 해서
So the first thing we should really be meditating on is ourself, is the existent person, and once we understand the emptiness of that, understanding the emptiness of other things is quite easy.
잘나도 좋은 일 소소한 걸 마토니 잘나도 좋은 걸 동반이 또아 요르베스네 근데 같이 요다스야 돼. 뭐 제사티 동부 소소한 걸 같이 빠지 그래서 동반이 손상 소소한 걸 당즈제야 등 모양은 뒤틀려 나와 식침보여라 식침보에 모양을 내라와
이게 내서는 공디 동반이 학교에 제대로 못한 게 그랬어요. Yeah, so it really is important just to think about the most beneficial thing is to think about the emptiness of the self, of the person, because that's really where the root of all the afflictions and everything is coming from. Since you have asked.
I hope I can speak in English about this.
Okay, sure.
My way to see what is it in the cup, so I understand what is the tea, and then I understand that there is no tea. I can.
No, you understand tea?
I understand.
Tea, oh, tea,
emptiness
okay,
in
yeah.
the cup.
Yeah.
If I understand what is the cup is able to be full. But how I can understand the emptiness of mind or the society if I don't to look the emptiness of the society and not look about what is able to be the full and then understand
yes, it's a very good question, and that's very important. It is important to understand what you're negating, but I'll ask. The kungso the gayote the cha mebala countries hakugi yureshi cha hakugi ma hakona countries cha meba te hakugi yureshi. Yeah, you have to understand what tea is to understand the absence of the tea.
Ta tombanyele shewo sare pena pumba ramjinji macho parese ondi ta ramjinji chapati ketan yo marta yo na ndrichi yo go sare sambi tombo gachangonze ya shuke chimshur chengo.
Okay. So in terms of, if we think about in terms of emptiness and the lack of true existence or inherent existence, we talk about one way you talk about this, it doesn't exist, but we talk about the object of negation, which is in this sense the T. And so you have to understand what the object of negation is.
Tatio omanal tikchi yoreta tikten romaso counter gachat ngomazamba te tombani geshe sa korora pares sonsa so demba tramnan derichi chop go sareta tin mendu samba tombo demba chop setting el ngozan gorela ndu tanda changos.
So if you don't recognize, there's a famous verse, if you don't recognize the object of negation, you can never understand emptiness. So in terms of like the lack of inherent existence or the lack of true existence, you have to understand what that would be. It's a non-existent, but you have to understand what it would be to understand what emptiness is, because you have to understand the lack of it.
So the first step is to understand what is able to be full and then understand the emptiness.
So tangonga to the gakcha
gakcha ta samita chachwa yo mara gakcha yo na derichi yo pena ribungol rayona ko ribungol choya chi gori mato shawagra chunri chi moine chok mara ndi so pa chunri chi kyam gore zo.
Yeah, so first we have to understand if it existed, how would it exist, right? Like in the same sense that they like this the horns of a rabbit as an example of a non-existent gets brought up a lot in Tibetan Buddhism. So the horns of a rabbit is an example of a non-existent. So if you wanted to prove that didn't exist, you first would have to know what the horns of a rabbit would look like or would be. And then you could prove it didn't exist. So in that same way, to understand or to prove the non-existence of true existence, you have to understand what true existence is.
Also nabje ngata kyota konze ti parantik ta pa tenichi yo shashach Ngātsu te sāwlo tāng te wore, te lu gāchā re zi te wore. Ngā zi on te soso rāngsik tā pachi chī, ngā zi te tawa shi dōdā chi yuwa nā. Tā, tēnri chi ngā zi ātā, ngātsu sāwlo ku pā zuwa jāng yuwa, tēnri dōdā chi chi yuwa mā re zi. Mewa te kanji khako nō zi, tā kyoro tse shao tā zi. Tse tā, tse. Kipa chi tāng, ngō tā lō pā tā kāmbā tā chashi rāng rāng tse shao tā, tse lu sōng tā rāya manduwa zi sōng tā, ngā zi ātā lō ku pā zuwa jāng yuwa chi re mā tō, ngā rō sō nā ji sāwa nā shīng ngā dōdā chi chi manduwa zi.
So to think about very simply, the normal way that we think about the person, you can understand is not so the meva jabu yores.
Mari yo shasha yo pa ma zi tawa shi rāng sik tam ni, shi wu chi dōdōng rō chi yo nā shā zi ngā zi.
So the self exists, but the way that we think, this solidity, this very solid self that we think exists, doesn't exist. And the way that we can understand that is we can search for it. We can search for that very solid, very stable self, and you can never find it. Even though the self, of course, we all exist, we don't exist in this very stable, very solid way that when we look for it, we should find it, but we don't. Yeah. Do you guys say any questions? Right.
Well, I was going to say, thank you again, about with suffering, that I noticed that, for example, a fly just buzzed past my ear and I kind of shoot it away. It was at that point I could feel my sense of something. Like something felt irritated by the fly. If there's nothing to irritate me, or everything is going fine, I have no real feeling of the sense of I that needs to be removed. There's no, without suffering, and my point is this, without suffering, there's nothing for me to want to get rid of. You know. So if the problem is the I that identifies with something that suffering it likes or dislikes, without the like or dislike, particularly without the dislike, then there's nothing for me to negate really. I'm happy. I'm going along, everything is okay.
Sure.
So my point is this, that suffering is actually very, very useful. Without it, I wouldn't have anything really that I would need to negate. But my point is this, to have the suffering is awful. Like when I have a disagreement with my ex or something, the I that comes up, she's wrong, I'm right, it becomes very toxic. Okay. But at that moment, it's very difficult to be able to deal with it. And so, but without later on thinking about the toxicity, I've got nothing to negate, you know. So it's just an observation, but we try to remove suffering, but without suffering, there would be no enlightenment. That's what I said. If I wasn't suffering, I wouldn't need to seek enlightenment or to be happy. So yeah.
the kongi ki the kongi nguma the changa kong the nokche supore te do the nga the yongsong nga the sebo chasong yene yang the tungel me bala the nga te yongi mares the nga to debo yena the gange yomares kangi sra the debo yena the kare macho kare chini the sangi gopang the tokores then you dungel me bala sangi ki gopang the
Tom do kiyo mari.
the mares are gomares the zumbatere the better tiorong.
Really, kange me na ta sanji komo gwa chiyo mari.
Yeah, without suffering, there's no reason to achieve Buddhahood, really. It's because of suffering.
So matsetan jikandu hindu te saula tanya re. Ta sanji ngema sanji shakyata pa koro saula tanya ta mitse ya ta kange kyanya re shas. Ombo chevi kange tani navi kange gavi shavi kange ta shazona yang kange kiwa iwan. Tani kange kyanya re sanzan dili yachi chona sambiti saula ta choni na chuta korongo jang.
So the Buddha, when he achieved enlightenment, or when he started the path of achieving enlightenment, he was thinking about, life, and like birth is suffering, life is suffering, death is suffering. We do this cycle over and over again, and all of this is suffering. And because of that, he sought a way to get out of it.
Yeah,
if we're happy, then yeah, of course that's fine.
When we start meditation, when we start meditating, some thoughts come to our mind
Okay.
and divert us from the meditation, source of meditation. Like if I'm meditating and I'm focusing on my breath, sudden thoughts come in my mind
Okay.
and took my attention away with that thoughts, and I forget to focus on my breath.
Okay. So, okay.
So, like, what should I do to be more focused
On the thoughts.
or be aware? Like, as soon as my attention get diverted, I get awareness there. I lost that, and I again come back. It come back, but it come back in a comfortable,
Slowly,
like in its own way.
So
It's
you-
not, yeah. But
So
I
you-
want to decrease that time.
You want to make it quicker.
Yeah.
So it's a gomgap to not so sometimes gomgap to the uk kikola migna the sim yengire the namdo kyongire inga to sim the namdo tela yengires I this jela the younger the uk mikires kongi chiwa kari sanada countries the simgi thing is in the uki thing is in countries yarki jokires some the big this kyoka the uk younger the
가려 운종을 보나
the ungjonda gomna tinga to sometimes the simyengeres nam
뭐 빨리 데마토니
yeah ning ba the nam tok like jogieres the picture gamma jigla jela younger the nga the simyen song the younger the ukta yere hanjes the dinangshin gom dinangshin yarge jo to kieres the sim mayeng beche to the kind of
하울람 가려 레제레
tabla
ताते इन तेज खपो रहो चिकजे करे ता करता नहीं ताते थाबलाम रहो त चंबाता शिवजी का कति न चों गोरे जे गोरा ता काज चंबाता शिवजी का ता छि तेमा त न तारा सेम शोन रो गोरे तनी आजंबा से मयान रो आचिक त गोपा त ले गोरा गोपा
Chasing to the countries the Shashin Chimbatang Shashin Yargejo to Giris.
अते सोसो गतलम बेस्तो चेना मा तो जेन थावला मुसी छि योज मार कारजेना तन निन यंचु मचिंग दि कात ना लो शल शोन रो ता सोसो कात गोम जाति हाको उंदो तन दि साउन लो शल शो ते तो सो का तल ना चो लाम गा छिन रोइना थेमाचिक जा सा ना यांजो जि माउंट जा जा छि तिनजि चेरे मा तो जे मुसी ग छि चलो ने कायन छि योज मार
So the important thing is to practice mindfulness and introspection. Do you know those terms?
Mind introspection.
Mindfulness and introspection. Mindfulness being just remembering the object, and introspection being sort of being aware of your mind, where your mind is. And there's no like particular method to improve those except just doing it. You just sort of do it. You practice meditation and practice mindfulness and introspection, being aware of what your mind is doing and remembering the object, and your meditation will just sort of improve as you practice it. In the same way that if you're like, sort of going down a road, the more you do it, the better you'll get, just naturally. There's no like method to improve that other than just doing it. Does that help?
Yes.
Chapang ko miya pon ron ro yore mangte kan ma shon ro ali lao ko mar sem shalo shon jo so li lao ha ko mar ya po cha kayo ji ko ro gom ya po cha kayo injira li lao ka ti ko shon ro yo shada ha ko mar
Yeah, I mean it's very good if you're practicing like that, and often people mind go off and don't ever even realize it, so that you're realizing it is quite good, right? Realizing that your mind has gone off is
even realizing the mind is gone is also a very beautiful thing.
Yes.
People even don't realize that the mind is getting diverted.
That's exactly what he said. Yes, many people don't realize that it's off, so you noticing it is very good.
Yeah.
One question.
Yeah.
When we Geshe told us about contemplating thinking all the sentient beings have been our mother. Yeah, but if I did reflect that really deeply, then I should feel unbearable. If I see, like beggars on the street, I should feel.
So the Simjin Dugnal the Tongna the Simpe Migubo Chap.
Yeah, but I didn't have that unbearable
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how deep should I reflect?
So ngato di nangshin jungma song. Ngato di countries di
re tate maso semcha dingawa thong se kangin thongro sembang chamni jenra yona yena ya nepachi yona ngaso kon nasali chu thogre to marwa ani panjo kyobo na ngaso panjo ro che thogre to mara ngaso sosol che meo ta me sonta ngaso saulo kar thongore ta ngaso yamle ya pochi che semchan de so kyong ala ti so nyon chi kana ngaso ro pa che to ma bal ne ko so la lamto na ko so kangali kyoto ko so kangi yongate yo chadang yom wangi kyanga mani ngama lenge basani yong yore ma to lila wo chi kana ho jam ni ko so chong ra nyo chi chamaro so yong ni sa wa ta ta chi
so right now of course we can't do anything, right? We can give people money, but we can't give everybody money. We can't cure all the sick people, right? So the only thing we actually can do is do practice and try to achieve Buddhahood, right? That's really the main way that we have to help people right now.
Sometimes ko so ro pa chi chong wa chi che to so to pa yar jin ro ni ta sang ji ko bon to na che to yo song ta ko so kangen ti li kyop to bi che tin ba so che gi sam bi so sem.
So by looking at the suffering of others, you use that to sort of improve your practice and really motivate yourself to keep practicing and keep working. But I don't, was that your question? I don't think we quite got your question.
I mean, while we were cultivating bodhicitta, and that's one way like we reflect all the sentient beings had been our mother, right? But I think if I did really reflect that. I can understand that through reasoning.
How do you get that like deep feeling?
Yeah.
Okay. So kanti ngato di namgyun di samlo tang na di simjen tsang mar nangshin di samlo tang hakuk yeres. Yeni tsorwa shukjimpo yung maris. Kanti di tsorwa shukjimpo le tukiris.
Re tati mashin tsenin bachi makena Sing so I should jump on Lego Maro. Tati Tomatal so Pama inari, that's also our Chishu Chilakan in China. That's what the Yungua, the Yungua, Ama inari, Benja inari, Pui inari, so our Chishu Chil. Tami Jambayo, Narong Pama Kernyo Yori. Teta nage put ta chikpa chikyan samba te so lo jang re ma to khati ngu mare lo jang zina tanga so bi chong ma lo jang che pora bi chong ma chin ton de ang ni pa ma chaningal ya po shu che no re pen to shu ni pu chaningal sewa che nyo yo re tin sa lo shi chen bo ta ni ka li jang it ka li ka bo re.
So it is hard, right? So if you think about your parents and your close ones, just that naturally arises that kind of deep feeling. If your parents or a loved one was sick or something, you would have this really deep feeling. So I mean, the only way it is difficult to generate that. The only way to do that is by training your mind, essentially. Really, even to looking at a fly or something, you can have this deep feeling, but you have to just train your mind to do that.
Machi saulo tang tang tera ngoni choni so ma che nyo sende go ma na je ji saulo tang na sende le mal zawa ka tsele na ko jamba le le ge na jin chi che ma saulo na le ma to na yoro che ma ri me jamba to ta mi to ma chin thong ding mi to ma bu to ma ji chin thong ding so to ma chi zhong di sa ma cho chi men do ta kun ding ne ama che nyo yo res mo ni ge ama che nyo a ten ding ge so yi chen rao de cho ya po chi le na ko le ta chen bo chi le ge je le to.
So for example, like a little insect, right? Normally we just sort of don't pay that much attention, or we think, oh, that whatever, we don't have that much of a feeling for him. But if you really saw, if you really understood, if you really believed, had firm faith that could have been your mother in a previous life, then you would have deep feeling for it. But for most of us, normally we don't have that. We don't have that deep belief.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and stop there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alejandra.
Was it very happy?